Well, Geoff, I am excited to catch up with you here at DTW in Copenhagen. And I guess, first question's the big question. I've been given to understand that AI is magic and is a panacea for all business problems that operators face. Is that correct?
I think that's a brilliant question, Sean. AI is just a new version of how you write software. So software for the last 30 years has been written in a flow nature, rules-based nature, very long, very complicated, focusing on every if-then statement. AI is software that doesn't have a rules-based mechanism. It uses the data and the patterns in the data to decide what those rules should be that are hidden inside the data pattern. So AI, there's no magic in AI at all. AI is software, but the magic is it's software that solves problems in new ways that delivers different results. And we need to understand how it does that, and then you can apply it, just like the first people who did an Excel spreadsheet were empowered by an Excel spreadsheet. It's the same thing with this.
You talked about rules, and you talked about, AI as a prediction machine, and I want to get into agentic AI, but before we get there, let's maybe just talk about, what is a rule? What is a decision? I guess for me, we take a prediction and we combine it with some degree of judgment, and then we have a decision that comes from those combined things. But is that the right way to think about how you use a prediction to do something?
I think this is a great question. I think maybe if we start with the size of the problem space. So if you have a very simple problem space that's very constrained, then you can look at that and you can look at a few obvious observations and you can go, well, if this is this, then clearly this is this. And that's how we've written software, for the last 30 years. The thing that we're not very good at is when we have massive amounts of information in a massive, unconstrained problem space. Because there's no way where you can sense all of those different signals in a human mind. We're limited almost completely in 3 dimensions. AI now, and really the size of the compute that comes with it, allows you to work in dimensions of tens of thousands, 50s of thousands. So that dimensional space means you see different patterns or different vectors that can come up with different insights and different conclusions. And that's where I think you get the opacity of the models. And also then, that's if you can't explain it as a human, you call it magic. That's where the magic bit comes in.
So to the agentic point, and this is just an observation made off of half a day of conversations with operators, which I know you've been doing the same thing today. They have the data, they have the engineering talent, they certainly have problems, but I don't think that technology is maybe the solution to those problems. What I sensed in my discussions at least was organizational inertia and a lack of change management. Is that fair?
Yeah, I don't think technology ever is the answer. I think there's people, process and tools, and it's a combination of those. When you apply them to a business where you want a wanted outcome, then if you actually understand your wanted outcome, you can decide how to use that tooling to get there. But the agentic thing, I mean, it's some of the quote magic that we observe in AI is because the AI models can ingest all of the knowledge that we've gathered together so far, and obviously then it can start to correlate in that multidimensional space conclusions that feel like human intuition, but really what it's doing is navigating that multidimensional space to give some kind of answers with variability. Now, that's no different from a human at all. So I've consumed a knowledge space. My memory is not as good as AI, which is one difference. But if you asked me to do something, I'll guarantee you, if you gave me the most explicit instruction you can imagine, I would come back to you and you'd look at it and go, well, that's not exactly what I asked you to do. it's maybe close, but that's not, you missed the point. So then you'd say, can you go back and just do it this way? That's no different with giving an instruction to an AI agent at all. It's going to come back with something, but it's going to behave in a quasi-human way. So this idea that we're going to be running off these AI agents that are just going to magically work is the same naivety as believing we're running off humans that are just going to magically work. There's no difference whatsoever. It's really hard to orchestrate that business end to end, which is where you started. That's not a technology problem, that's a management problem. And we're managing now AI as well as people. So how do you do that?
So let's move from the magical to the practical. I guess I'll make the general comment that successes from AI are coming from taking small, narrow problems that have measurable outcomes and applying AI to them. Tell us a little bit about Site Manager. This is one of those practical, real applications of AI that makes meaningful difference immediately.
Yeah, so site management as a process, the planning and building of telecom networks or any kind of technology network is incredibly complicated. So there's 150 plus steps that are discrete in planning permissions, site surveying, all the regulatory paperwork, designing the actual equipment that goes in there, ordering that equipment, getting the equipment shipped, supplied, installed, verified, validated. So just building one site is a big task. Multiply that with somebody like AT&T who has 200,000 sites, you end up with 20 million plus discrete jobs. You've got, say, 10,000 people touching the network in different places. Each time they could do something incompletely wrong or correct. And you're trying to coordinate that today, traditionally, through paper, email, spreadsheets. What we have done, starting in Japan, is we said that we couldn't afford to do that. So rather, we built a system where all those 10,000 people are all putting their latest status and data and verification into one system and one source of truth. So then you immediately know, here's exactly where we are in terms of the project. You can start running modeling over that, saying, where do we predict the delays will come? And then you can adjust the next work order. So you don't get reactive, you get predictive. Now, I like a phrase where I refer to pragmatic AI, because I don't think we need to worry about these big agent workers and things like this. There's so many cost savings that we can get to in the minutiae of just these processes we have. For example, if you do a field engineer does a site visit and they have to show completion of work, so they take a photograph. Traditionally, you email that to a supervisor back in HQ. When the supervisor opens your email, they check it, they go yes or no, or the photograph's not good enough. But you have to wait for that person to be at the desk and get round to that email. So the field engineer's left, they've gone to the next job. Then the HQ says, well, the photograph's not good enough. So then you have to go back, another truck roll, another $1,000, where you could have been doing another job. You replace that human checking with an AI agent that is 24/7. It looks at the photograph, it can immediately say, you need to take the photograph again. It can immediately say, yeah, this is missing, this isn't good. And then it'll come back, it'll immediately approve it. And then that field engineer working for a different company gets paid immediately. So everything aligns from an incentive point of view. That takes weeks off a project. So AI doesn't have to be these big, world-changing, Skynet kind of discussions that we like. It's just very simple, pragmatic applications that you can do.
Yeah, you alluded to this. So Site Manager is sold through Symphony, but this is sort of an automation framework developed by Rakuten Mobile in the process of deploying the network in Japan. And to me, this is all about learning by doing. So, what else are you all doing? What else are you learning?
Well, So if you don't do that initial step, because the real magic starts with if you have all that data in one place, you actually have that idea of a digital twin. You actually know where everything is. Now, in the old networks, you could manage that through spreadsheets a bit easier because nothing moved. But in a cloud-native network, then pods and clusters are continuously redeployed. Containers move between servers depending on failure. So you have to have a complete inventory system as a ground source of truth if you want to get into a self-driving network down the road, because otherwise you don't know where anything is. So you end up with a self-fulfilling prophecy that you need to be able to then use that snapshot of what you look like. You analyze the fault coming in. Let's say that a server is overloaded. You have to understand what jobs are running on that server. Well, that moves in a cloud-native network depending on how the cluster's reconfigured based on failures. As you've moved it, you update that source of truth, and then you can start to get closed-loop operations that actually are self-contained. So my analogy is that Tesla didn't start by taking bits of different existing cars and trying to shove them together. It looked at the system design and said, how do we feel like a driver in this software on wheels experience?
So Geoff, based on what you've seen and heard here at DTW, what would you say that the industry is collectively getting right? What would you say they're getting wrong?
I think what the industry is getting right, and I think TM Forum is doing a really good job, is for the first time in my 30 years in this industry, we understand that operations is the most important thing, because that is what the business is. So how we do things defines what we do. And it's always been this ugly stepchild. We've always enjoyed, the radios and the networks as an industry. So what's great is the energy here, the increasing attention, and the real statements of progress are good. What worries me is that as an industry, we're carrying on doing the same things as we did before in terms of speaking about 5G and speaking about 5G SA and now the horror of 6G. And those processes seem to be carrying on as if nothing's changed in the world. Spectrum, management, things like these. I think we have to take a hard look at ourselves and say, what do we need to reinvent, not from the technology or network, but from the whole business? How are we running our business? Because we're not keeping up with change outside. So I think we need to self-reflect and take a hard look at ourselves.
Well, you've hit on the core tension here. Engineers, telecom engineers particularly, very good at figuring out how to do something without ever stepping back to ask, why am I doing this at all?
Yeah, and I have a lot of sympathy for every existing operator. This is not easy. This is highly complicated, and we haven't paid attention to legacy technology in these spaces before because we've been so busy keeping up with growth and demand. So there's no way I'm saying that this is an easy task. I think the opportunity we have as an industry is it's never been more important. There is a unique space, and the best thing to do is solve a complicated problem well, because you will get paid for solving something well in a new way.
Geoff, I keep up with you on LinkedIn, and you write a lot of really thought-provoking things, or things that I find thought-provoking. But yeah, so leave us with something to think about here. Give us a real head-scratcher.
Oh, so, watch this space. AI is not, the future of AI is not the replacement of humans. The future of AI is the augmentation of their capacity by 10 to 100x. And if we can't do that in telecom, we won't be able to keep up with the growing complexity. So it's augmentation, not replacement. Any vendor that comes to you that says that they've got magic unicorn agents that are going to change everything you do, really take care about that snake oil, because you'll end up with an AI workforce that you don't really understand. They're not doing what you want them to do.
Excellent. Well, Geoff, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation and share your perspective with our audience.
Thank you very much.